Ryan Poles and the Bears keep on taking swings. They sign defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, longtime Atlanta Falcon, who got cut earlier today, to a 3-year, $43.5 million contract with $28.5 million guaranteed. I got a lot of thoughts. I got a lot of analysis. This is why you subscribe to the channel. When big news happens, we're going live. We're live for NFL free agency all week long. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. We're live right now. If you're watching this video on demand, come join myself, producer Cullen, in the live chat. Let's get to 119,000 subs ASAP as the Bears keep making moves in NFL free agency. Okay, let's talk about the signing. Listed there as a DN, but that was in a 3-4. He'll play inside in a 4-3 scheme. He's long been one of my favorite players in the league. Kind of a bowling ball type of player, wins with speed. Had a bit of a statistical down year last year. He is 31, so unlike Dayo Adengbo, this is more of a guy with more skins on the wall, but closer to the end of his career than the beginning, but still a disruptive interior player that can come in here and be productive. And I think Peter Schrager had a good tweet that I'll just kind of verbalize to you guys. Like Joe Thuney for the offense, not only is he bringing you good play, but he's going to bring valuable leadership to a young defensive line. You think about this group on the defensive line, right? Montez Sweat is a vet, but he's not a vocal leader type. Grady Jarrett will provide that for a guy like Gervon Dexter. I think, imagine how he can help that guy. And I've got them playing next to each other. We'll see how that fits in with Billings. Obviously, Billings is going to play nose when he does play. But I think a guy like Dayo Adengbo, who just comes in, Jarrett can help him grow as well. How about a guy like Austin Booker as well? So I really like this signing, both because I think he still has a good amount left in the tank as an interior player, but also because his leadership and experience, I think, is going to pay dividends for this young defensive line. And to add a leader who's been around the block like him, just like Joe Thuney for the offensive line, just in that room in those meetings, a guy who can step up if someone's slacking and set the tone and say, hey, cut that shit out. I expect Grady Jarrett to be able to do that. And I think that's what you're looking at here. To me, there's a few themes with what we've seen so far this offseason. The number one is obvious. It's all trenches. It's all trenches. You trade for 2 guards and Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney. You sign Drew Dahlman to be your center. You sign Dayo Adengbo to be your kind of young, up-and-coming edge rusher. And you sign Grady Jarrett to be that interior defensive lineman who can bring leadership qualities. So that number one is trenches. Number 2 is sprinkling in some veterans with a young team to bring in that leadership. That's number 2. And number 3, especially for the free agent signings, they're all very similar. They're 2+1s. Drew Dahlman, 3 for 42, 28 guaranteed. If you do the math, that's 14 per year. That's a 2+1. So you're not crippled long term. Dayo Adengbo, 3 for 48, 16 per year, 32 guaranteed. Quick math, 16 plus 16 is 32. It's 2+1. Grady Jarrett, 3 for 43.5, 28 guaranteed. Quick math, that's a 2+1. Now, I don't know exactly how they're structuring them in terms of the year-by-year cap hits and et cetera. And for those asking what's the updated cap space, we probably won't know that until later today or even tomorrow or the next day once the new league year officially starts on Wednesday. So in terms of how much cap space is left, I would guess around $15 million, something like that. They can move money around. They can restructure a contract to free up money. They can cut Ryan Bates. They can extend Kyler Gordon. There's still extend Joe Thuney. There's ways to create more cap space, but I said it after the Adengbo signing. I think their big moves are done, but then they signed Grady Jarrett, so who knows what's next. I do think this officially gets you out of the Trey Hendrickson sweepstakes. I do think that's for sure done at this point. But I do like the move because you needed multiple defensive linemen. I still think you need to draft a young edge rusher or defensive tackle or both in this upcoming draft. But I love the approach. And what did Ryan Poles say? When you have a clear vision, you can be more aggressive. What's the vision? Our trenches suck. They need to improve. Well, you've added 5 trenches players in a week and a half. That's sending a pretty strong message of what you're trying to accomplish here. What is your one-word reaction to the Grady Jarrett signing? I just trenches. That's the theme of what this team is doing this offseason. We've been begging for it, especially on the offensive line for years, but also the last couple of years it's been clear. This defensive line is not disruptive enough. And Grady Jarrett, a longtime guy who can do it on the inside. Dayo Odeyingbo, who's got the flashes. Can he be a little bit more consistent? You add those two guys, obviously beefing up the offensive line. Like, you got to respect the approach that the Bears are taking trying to build the offensive and defensive lines up. Get yourself this Bears Nike t-shirt right now for 45% off. It's $29.99 for a limited time only. Usually it's $54.99. Chatsports.com/BearsT. That link will redirect you to the shirt. Pick your size. Click and shop today. Link is in the comments and in the description. Chatsports.com/BearsT. We're kind of doing these depth charts on the fly, so don't worry too much about where the backups sit and all that stuff. I think Dexter and Jarrett will start next to each other. Dexter, to me, is big enough to be that one tech, and I've always wondered if he could be better there because he is 315 and he could kind of use his speed at that spot, so that'll be interesting. Billings obviously will rotate in a lot. I think you need another defensive tackle. I don't think Zach Pickens is the answer, so I could see them drafting someone maybe on day 3. It's a deep defensive tackle class. Same thing with edge. You definitely need another edge rusher. You hope Austin Booker comes along, but I think you've got Sweat, Odeyingbo, and Booker. To me, I would want to draft someone on day 2, ideally at edge, to kind of be that number 3 guy where Booker, you can still kind of slow play his development as that 4th edge. Then probably Daniel Hardy's your 5th guy who plays on special teams primarily, as they tendered him. But Grady Jarrett, that one kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, he got cut like 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago by the Falcons. No one saw that coming. And then he's on a new team within a few hours. And you know what? Dennis Allen has gone up against this guy for years in the NFC South. So he's had a front row seat to what this guy brings to the table. Experience, power, speed, tenacity, leadership. I just, you don't want to throw out the cliches, but he's just been a consistent player for a long time for the Atlanta Falcons. And for one, I love what they're doing. Trenches, 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 trenches. And we kind of saw the tea leaves. Clear vision. Go be aggressive. Once they traded for Jackson and Tooney, that should have been a signal. Producer Colin, you called it. They're going to go get Drew Dahlman. I was like, are they going to pay big? Now, it didn't end up being as much as I thought, but they're sending you a message, this fan base, like, hey, we hear you. We know we've been pretty weak in the trenches. They've added 5 players in about 8 days on the offensive and defensive line.
Yeah, and you gave your one word, trenches, trenches, trenches. Mine is credibility. I mean, you look at these names, right? Jonah Jackson, Joe Tooney, Drew Dahlman, Dayo Odeyingbo, and Grady Jarrett. Guys that have played around in the league for a long time, obviously outside of Dayo, who's kind of a more younger guy. But Grady Jarrett, you're trying to change the culture here in Chicago. You're trying to change the kind of mindset of your team. And you go out and you get veterans, especially in all various kind of levels here, as our lights just kind of came on mid-cut. But listen, you go out and get Grady Jarrett, a guy that's been a Pro Bowler in this league, Joe Tooney, an All-Pro, Drew Dahlman, a really good center, Jonah Jackson, that's been a part of really good offensive lines, and Dayo Odeyingbo, a kind of, projection style. So you're kind of mixing it up in terms of the level of guys you're targeting. And overall, I just think it's a really smart move by the Chicago Bears.
I don't think you can measure what Tooney and Jarrett are going to bring to the locker room. I think that's immeasurable. I think it's so valuable to a team that just needs guys in the front of that room that can bring that leadership and experience. Like, yeah, I've been there and I've done that. I just think it's massive. And the fact that they are both playing positions of clear need in the trenches to not only help you on the field, but help be those type of leaders and guys that players can look up to, I think it's huge. I really don't think you can measure it. So let us know how you feel about the Grady Jarrett signing. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We'll see what happens next here on Chicago Bears Now.